Hello and welcome. This is Chris from Missouri here, bringing you another episode of Just a Bit Outside. This is where I bring you stories and show you cards of a list I put together of players that aren't in the Hall of Fame that have a chance to be in the Hall of Fame, maybe. See, I put together a list of 5 players at each position that I believe are the best at that position, that their rookie cards were made before 1980. Now, not all of these players I believe are going to get in the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to share stories with you and show you cards that I pick up in my pursuit of this set. I have not yet picked up all the cards on this list. I have a long way to go, and so I look forward to bringing you this every Thursday. See, I'm going to show you a handful of cards every week that are on this list that I pick up. But I'm also going to bring to you a story of maybe one or two during that same episode that aren't on the top 5, but I believe have a cool story to tell. And there's a bunch of them, and these cards are really, really cool. See, I'm going to show you this list right here, and I'm going to do this one slow. Matter of fact, I'm going to try to stand up here. Hang on. All right, I hope I don't mess this up. But here is my list of Just a Bit Outside. There's the five catchers, 5 first basemen, on down to 5 pitchers. Now, last week was the episode number 1. This is episode number 2. In last week's episode, I only brought you a story about John Donaldson and a story about Amos Otis. See, John Donaldson's on the list to be in the Hall of Fame, voted on by December 8th. And I'm going to try to show you those cards of the players that's on the list to get in the Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee first, and then bring you the other cards. So this week's episode number 2, I'm going to show you cards and tell you stories about some baseball players. And the first one I'm going to show you is this guy right here. Now, Louis Tiant is a player that just passed away. And the 1965 card there is his rookie card. And it's a beautiful card, and he's just a heck of a player. Now, I don't know if Louis Tiant belongs in the Hall of Fame, but my vote would be yes. Now, once in a while, a player comes along that he just carries charisma, and you just know that he thinks he's the best player on the field. And I'm going to show you 4 cards tonight of players that when they took the field, they thought they were the best player on the field. See, Louis Tiant's stats aren't all that great. I mean, they are great. But compared to some Hall of Famers like Tom Seaver and Nolan Ryan and Jim Palmer and some of those guys, it might suffer in comparison. But when he took the mound to face them, I guarantee you he thought he was every bit as good as them. He had a WAR of 66.1, which is not bad. His winning had 229 wins and 167 losses. He had over 2,400 strikeouts. He never won a Cy Young. He was he's 4-time in consideration of a Cy Young winner. But that doesn't all tell the story of Louis Tiant. See, Louis Tiant came up with the Cleveland Indians, and he was a flamethrower. He threw hard. He didn't need to candy coat anything. He just stood up and threw and got you out. He did a good job of it. Later on in his career, he kind of was getting ready to be out of baseball. He had arm problems, and he had to try to do something to figure out how to get a person out at the plate. See, a lot of times you hear of these guys these great baseball players that just don't want to give it up, that maybe they go and learn a different pitch to stay in the league longer. You've heard of people, learning a knuckleball or a splitter or something, and it revitalizes their career a little bit and keeps them in the league. But usually they don't stay as the ace. Now, Louis Tiant, he was an ace pitcher, and when he came over to the Boston Red Sox, it was a circus and a party every time he took the mound. And he had a lot of Cuban-born Americans that loved to watch him play, and he was their hero. And to me, that means a lot when it comes to talking about voting for the Hall of Fame. He captivated a certain part of our country. And in 1975, he captivated me. I was a young kid, and I was a Cincinnati Reds fan, and that World Series was so important to me. I was, 74, I watched the World Series, and I knew about baseball, and I love baseball. But, sitting down, having the patience to sit down and watch a 9-inning ball game was tough. But that following year, I was glued to the TV, and I knew the Reds were good, and that was my favorite team. And we really did just get a television to be able to watch it, and that even got me more interested. And he pitched against the Cincinnati Reds, and the game six of that series was one of the greatest games of all time, and my Cincinnati Reds did not win, and I was one angry kid when I went to bed. But Louis Tiant, even though the Red Sox did not win that series, something about Louis Tiant stuck in my head. And guys that are my age or a little bit younger, a little bit older, will tell you when they played wiffle ball growing up out in their backyard or even regular baseball, they tried to imitate Louis Tiant. See, Louis Tiant, for some of you that's maybe a generation younger, there was Fernando Valenzuela, and if you remember how he twisted his body and he looked up in the air, looked at the bill of his hat and threw, that was similar to what Louis Tiant did. For those of you young guys that are big baseball fans and have, recently watched Johnny Cueto try to get people out, he's similar to how Johnny Cueto pitched a year or two ago in the World Series, 10 years ago in the World Series, but how he pitched two or 3 years ago, where he would try to hesitate and stop motion and just try to trick a hitter and throw off their timing. Well, us guys that are about my age or a little younger or older, when we picked up that wiffle ball in that backyard, we would twist and turn, and we would all pretend that we were Louis Tiant just to try to throw the batter off. And I hope Louis Tiant gets into the Hall of Fame. Now, what bothers me so much is his fans, and there's some YouTubers out here that were fans of his, but his true fans that loved him are not going to see him or get to hear him make his speech. And I wish the Hall of Fame would get that fixed. If they know someone's eventually going to get in the Hall of Fame or going to be close, put them up on the ballot and do something to either make that ballot bigger to give that person a chance. I don't know. That might be the fandom in me talking. But anyway, I would vote yes for Louis Tiant. Now, Louis Tiant, I love looking at the baseball reference stats and stuff, and one of the most fun things I'd look at is not the WAR, but who they compare to their careers. And they compare Louis Tiant to Catfish Hunter, Jim Bunning, Vida Blue, Kevin Brown, Don Drysdale, and Oral Hershiser. Every one of those guys was at one time the ace of their staff. A few of them are in the Hall of Fame, and some might be considered later on. So that, my friends, is my argument for Louis Tiant. My next card that I want to show you, a player that's on the list to be in the Hall of Fame and everybody's talking about right now on their channels and stuff, is none other than Dave Parker. That's a 1974 Topps, and that's Dave Parker's rookie card. And what a heck of a player. Again, I love talking about the players that I've seen play. It's hard for me to talk about somebody in the 20s and that kind of 30s and 40s and 50s, people I haven't seen. But this is in my wheelhouse. And when you saw Dave Parker play, if you saw Dave Parker play, when he walked on the field, you would have said that is a Hall of Famer. Now, his stats they're lacking in some places, but he battled some different things in his career. He was injured at times and had some other problems that made him miss, but he was good early and he was good late. And so his WAR is 40.1. That is not all that impressive for a Hall of Famer. But he did have over 2,700 hits. He had over 500 doubles. That's saying something right there. He's more of a doubles hitter than a home run hitter, especially on an AstroTurf. He had 339 home runs, which is nothing to sneeze at. He had almost 58 RBIs shy of 1,500. A lot. That there might be a stat that should get him in. He was a 7-time All-Star, so that means he was pretty much a fan favorite. He was a 3-time Golden Glover with possessing one of the best arms of all time. In the All-Star game, I forget what year that was, 78, maybe 79. He made 2 throws to get guys out at home plate to prevent runs, which wrapped up the MVP voting for that All-Star game for him. He was a 1-time MVP, but he was a 9-time player that was in really high consideration of winning an MVP. I'm not so sure he shouldn't have won at least 2. He was in the World Series in the American League, and he was in the World Series in the National League. And I got to know him in my mind, in the National League. I believe it was the 79 World Series where it was the We Are Family, and when he stood up to bat, there was just a difference in him than most anybody else. He looked like a freight train, and when he ran the bases and the ball got into the gap, if he was on first and he was going from first to third or even first to home, there's a story about him rounding, and I picture him rounding third base and losing his hat and just chugging down the line. And it seemed like he started to slide at times halfway to home plate. Every step he took was monumentous compared to anybody else, the way his stride was. And he was a great player. And I want him in the Hall of Fame. I believe he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe there was a time that he ever thought anybody that he played against or was on the field against him was better than him. I don't think there was a time that he faced a pitcher that he was ever scared of. And so, again, put him in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I believe. Now, if you disagree or that kind of stuff, love it. Feel free to make a comment down because on this particular Hall of Fame list, and remember, this is my list on my series Just a Little Bit Outside. So right now he's not in. He hasn't been in a while, but I'm hoping he hasn't been in for a while, but I'm hoping he gets in. So, I believe he's one of the best right fielders from the 70s and 80s. And if you're the best for that long, you belong in the Hall of Fame. So that's my argument for Dave Parker on Just a Little Bit Outside. So another one I'm going to talk to you about is another one that's on the list. Again, I'm trying to get these up here before that list gets made out. And that is Dick Allen. And this is a 1964 Topps. That's his rookie card. And I believe he has a strong argument to be in the Hall of Fame. He's almost been put in the Hall of Fame twice by the Veterans Committee. He's up again this year. Now, his WAR is 58.7, pretty respectable. His career was short, and he has less than 2,000 hits, and that's going to hurt him a little bit. But he has 351 home runs and over 1,100 RBIs. He was Rookie of the Year. He was a 7-time All-Star. So when he played, he was an All-Star a big portion of his career. He was an MVP, and 6 other times he was in consideration. And I believe in 72, you should look at his line. He led the league in everything. I mean, it was just amazing. He was very intimidating. His cards are really nice. When he stepped on the field, he stepped on the field as an angry man. He was angry. You can see videos. I mean, there was a few people that when I played, I was a catcher, but every once in a while when I played out in the field, I always wore a batting helmet. Well, I always wore a catching helmet, so it looked like their batting helmets. But there was only a few people that did that I knew of, and one was George Scott, one was John Olerud, and one that I pretended to be like was Dick Allen. But he wore that helmet out on the field to protect himself from from batteries being thrown at him from people that didn't want him to play. He played angry, and he played with a chip on his shoulders because he thought everybody was against him. He was a really, really good player, and he has a big chance to get in, and I hope he gets in this year. These are 3. There's a 3 on the list, and I probably won't do that next time when I do this Just a Little Bit Outside. I will do more that I don't think will get in the Hall of Fame, but I believe all 3 of these deserves to get in the Hall of Fame. Now, when I look down on Baseball Reference and see what players he's similar to, he's similar. There's 3 names on the list that he's similar to. One of them's Chipper Jones, one of them's Duke Snider, and one of them is the great Willie Mays. And if you're similar to the great Willie Mays, open those freaking doors and let him in. And again, he deserves it. Let him in. And last but not least of this Just a Little Bit Outside. Now see, the stuff I'm going after is the 5 best players that's not in the Hall of Fame, that their rookie cards are before 1980. Now this guy is not on this list and did not make this list, and I'm going to show you a card or 2 every week of somebody that's not on this list, but I like to tell the story. And I've told this guy's story before, but I want to get it out of the way because I haven't done it with this group. And here's the card. I've actually showed this card before, but this is a 1968 baseball card of Hal McCrae. Beautiful card. Love it. Now, I'm showing this card because Hal McCrae played on my 2 favorite teams, the Cincinnati Reds and the Kansas City Royals. Now, Hal McCrae's WAR is low. His WAR is 20. WAR for somebody to be in consideration. This is why he didn't make the list. He's not quite good enough to be considered for the Hall of Fame, or there's players ahead of him. His WAR is 27.9. He had just a little bit under 2,100 hits. He had a long career too, so that didn't keep him from getting hits. He did, however, have just a little bit short of 500 doubles. He was a doubles machine. He had 191 home runs and just a little bit, three RBIs short of 1,100. He was a 3-time All-Star, and he was 5-time in consideration for most valuable player. Now listen to me. I've said this before, and if you guys don't turn over and look at a YouTube video of it, I'm going to keep talking about it. But baseball was played different in the 60s and 70s. They didn't protect second base. They didn't protect the catcher from getting knocked down. Heck, George Brett and Greg Nettles got in a fist fight at third base on a play where George Brett slid in hard and Greg Nettles kicked him in the face. They got in a fist fight, started a brawl, and neither one of them got kicked out. You guys seen the play Pete Rose knocking in an All-Star game, knocking the ball out of Ray Fosse's hands at like Dick Butkus tackling a runner at home plate in a freaking All-Star game. That's how the game was played. Now this guy played the game hard. He played with a chip on his shoulder too. Watch him, Google it. Watch him take out a runner at second base. I'm serious. He broke up a play that Willie Randolph was trying to turn two. He sent He sent Willie Randolph out in left field. This guy played hard. People got out of his way. There was a story. Bill James says that Hal McCrae would have been a surefire Hall of Famer and one of the fastest guys to ever play the game had he not went to Winter League and broke his leg, and it was a bad break, and he was never the same speed-wise after that. So he got stronger, and he learned to stay in the league, and he played hard. We would know more about Hal McCrae because he became a DH and didn't get to play in the field, and he missed playing in a World Series because they didn't allow DHs in the World Series at the time, or in the National League, especially in '85 when he was at the top of his game. He was an angry man as well. I would suggest you do this. I love it. Google Hal McCrae, put that in your pipe and smoke it. He was a manager of the Kansas City Royals, and he had George Brett on his team later in the years, and George Brett was sitting on the bench, hadn't played yet, and late in the game, there was a left-hander throwing. George Brett bats left-handed, and usually, you want to get a right-handed hitter to face the left-handed pitcher, but you had George Brett sitting on your bench who was left-handed. He could have DH'd or he could have pinch hit, but instead chose a guy to pinch hit for a left-hander that had a 190 career average, and he didn't choose George Brett. And a reporter asked him, did he consider using George Brett? And he pulls out he's in his long underwear, and he pulls this phone out that was sitting on his desk, and he throws it up against the wall and bounces and hits a guy. Watch it. He's an angry man. But anyway, so that is Dick Allen, Dave Parker, Louis Tiant. All three, I hope, get in the Hall of Fame. And that is Hal McCrae, who I love to tell the story. He was a great player, has a great rookie card. Now, I hope you enjoy this Just a Bit Outside, because I'm going to bring one to you every Thursday. And guys, remember, this is just a hobby. Collect what you like.